America. I love America, values for which it stands or stood. The values that we hold so dear to our heart or held. Values like freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to choose your dipping sauce. But what happened to these values? Where did they go? And who took them from us? And most importantly, how do we get them back? So I had the chance recently to travel up to the mountains to this munchy, crunchy town, and I found myself in this bespoke coffee shop, and I met this alien. And, we just kind of hit it off. It was like, wow, everything you're saying is so me, that kind of honeymoon phase, He was a really curious guy. He had a lot of questions. So we, found ourselves conversing for hours in a nook outside a treatment center. And he was like, okay, let me get this straight. You guys have this thing called capitalism, and then you have corporations, and they have shareholders, and they kind of rule the roost. And I thought, well, you've really got away with words. And he said, okay, and you've got the, free flow of capital. Anyone can start a business that they want to, the government, not bothering you. And I thought, well, and he said, and I assume that you follow the robust Galaxian pattern whereby if a business profits from pain, it gets the, and I was like, oh, let me tell you. He was like, oh no, you went the path of addiction to money and power, valuing personal wealth over family, over community? And I thought, that's a pretty good way of describing it. But it made me think about the loss of our national values, about profit over people, aka greed. Now, what is greed but an addiction to money? I mean, don't get me wrong, money is an amazing and powerful tool. Top 5 powerful tools of all time, along with AI, the internet, the bomb, and Steph Curry. But like all powerful tools, it is also very dangerous and should never be worshipped for itself. But it also made me think about the industries in this country that are corrupted by greed, that are backwards, that make more money from more suffering. Now, many of you may not know that when I was a kid, 734 years ago, we used to express moral outrage at the volume and cruelty of 1980s Chinese prisons. However, you also may not know that according to the Bureau of Justice, we went from 300,000 people behind bars in 1980 to almost 2 million individuals behind bars today, utterly crushing China's own incarceration rate by a staggering 4 to 5 times, according to the Urban Institute. Phone calls home are charged at up to 10 times the normal rate, according to the Prison Policy Initiative, whereby a mother would actually have to work for almost an entire week to make enough money just to pay for one 15-minute call home to her child. I believe in every incarcerated individual in this country and in their right to human dignity. Every single one of them was once a child, shaped by circumstance, hurt by adults. People can change in 10 to 12 months, not 10 to 20 years. Now, a final fun-filled fact about this family-oriented industry that I'm guessing that you don't know is that the private prison system is way more ballsy than the states themselves and actually forces them to enact occupancy quotas, according to inthepubliceye.org, whereby they can fill those beds up to 90 to 100%, and if we don't, we taxpayers have to pay penalties, and that ain't it. Let's spell it out clearly, shall we? profiting from prolonged suffering is un-American. But what about when we export that suffering? Now, human beings in general want peace. We don't want war. We want diplomacy and riz and a kind of let's get down to business type attitude. We don't want sanctions on them. We don't want sanctions on us. We want the free flow of capital, remember? But when it comes to the unspeakable pain of losing family during a war, or being under the threat of bombs or attack, a human being is a human being. There is no us and them. When they die, we die. Now, the tippy tops make money from us not knowing that we are connected. The system is backwards. But let's look at it clearly, shall we? One insight that stands out to me, above all others, around these massively impactful systems is the need to distinguish between true information and advertising. If it comes from a company with shareholders or without, it's advertising. And in no industry is this realization more important than in the medical industry. The new kid on the block, dominating the lives of Americans every single day and profiting from them massively. But what this incredibly Chad of a system is not, is altruistic, because in the current model, if I get cured and don't come back, you lose money. The system is backwards. But how do we actually change these chuggy systems and bring these sort of super hummers into the actual opposite direction that they're going right now? Well, one thing that has not worked is relying on our government to protect us from greed in what should be altruistic spaces, and nor has low-key the ballot box. We need something else, something big, something local. So it occurs to me as an unhinged geographical determinist to draw from local innovation, local inspiration, and local approaches to finding solutions. Now, here in the place where startups have elevated founders to GOAT status, we have the power to out-business these outdated models. Creating systems that profit from human happiness is our canon event. What if we could monetize faster rehabilitation, peaceful diplomacy, outcomes where the positive response is more self-sufficient communities, say less? To put it simply, let's let the power of capitalism work against these broken systems. The next startup could actually be crushing it right now by connecting and supporting people instead of harming them. Okay, so finally, here's your homework. As soon as you get home, I want you to go and ask your device to give you a list of the top 20 companies that are profiting from war, from prisons, from sickness. Then choose your favorite one. Then ask your device to build you a model for a startup that puts that business out of business by monetizing positive human outcomes instead. Someone that hears this or sees this could actually start the next company that brings our country into the third millennium by updating these outdated models. It's us who can change our country. And in doing so, the world.